All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Semi-Perfect Podcast here on January 25th, 2017. I don't know what show number this is. Saber, you've been keeping track.
46.
Of
What?
It's episode
Well, there you
46.
go.
46. Carl Long rolled over a race car in North Carolina in the number 46 machine back in 2001.
Who is that?
It was hilarious.
Poor guy. Underfunded team. Anyways, welcome to the show, folks, as we have quite the big topic to hit off. But first, introductions with everybody in here. We got our full podcast team here tonight, starting with Toodles. How you
Hello.
doing?
I'm good.
Toodaloo.
She's like the din mother of the podcast. She makes sure it's nurtured and good. Want to thank you again, Sarah, for all your hard work that you do in regards to the Semi-Perfect Podcast. Because do. Also with us, we have Black Griffin.
Hi, everyone. I thought it'd be weird if, like, the world was all the same, but everybody, every fifth word had to go like that.
Conversation takes such a long time.
It
Is it not like that already?
I can't understand
Well, not that I-
your accent.
Also, we have Saberspark
Thank you.
and the person that keeps him under control, Laura.
Don't give me that responsibility.
It's yours. It is all yours. PanamaMatt's in the house.
Howdy.
And Paleosteno is done cleaning up his keyboard.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I'll wait, not yet. Yeah, wait. No, okay, there we go.
That was great. That was soundboard quality.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we want to thank you all for coming in. We're hitting triple digits here on this podcast. So, again, big thanks to everybody that's joining us here tonight.
Oh, wow, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's good. Now, just so everybody knows that some of you might not be as familiar with our podcast, this is the Semi-Perfect Podcast. We have it bi-weekly, so every other Wednesday. And, you can follow our Twitter, which I think we might be able to post somewhere in here. But there's a Semi-Perfect Podcast Twitter. We go over a bunch of random topics each week. Talk about just whatever's on our minds, whatever big topics in media, involving movies, involving MLP, you name it. We'll
You're just schlocking it out, man. Well,
It's basically a Skype call that you guys can
wow.
eavesdrop on.
you know what? But since we're on the topic, I'm going to link my Patreon here and to the chat.
Oh, yeah, because it's so related, Saber. For the
There we
record,
go.
Oh man, I can do that for mine too. Hold on.
You guys should all ask him about it.
I don't have a Patreon because I would get attacked by horse news if I did that.
well, good. I'm glad to
Also-
know that they keep you in check.
Yep.
It would give more attention to the page.
That is true. Thank you
There
for
is no
setting
such
me
thing
straight.
as bad
I'm-
publicity.
Tell that to a dog's purpose.
Oh, Lord, just stay away from that.
Oh, God, what
Also,
happened?
another bit of news is that there is a Semi-Perfect Podcast fan club on Discord. The fans of our show have created their own server, and I'm going to pop the link into the chat for that if you want to join, chat, do whatever. It's there.
Cool.
It's your own
All
little
right.
community right there.
Make sure you guys go ahead and join that. Again, folks, we want to thank you all for joining us here tonight. Really excited about the topic because it's something that I've kind of been sitting on for a little over a month, being on the Steve Harvey Show. And I'll get into that in a bit. One thing that we like to do is our viewers. Okay, us here at the
Oh, I
Semi-Perfect
love
Podcast, specifically Saber and I, we really like food. All right, like Saber and I will talk daily about what. In fact, our conversation's so food focused that every time I call up Saber, he has to go through a drive-through in order for our conversation to make sense. I'm not kidding. That happens every day. Anyways, so we do food posts here, and I'm looking at some that were sent to me. I'm going to retweet the ones with the podcast in the background. Nora Mermaid says, "This little mermaid is watching with a cupcake, of course." Of course.
Of course.
Nora is...
course, of
And I think
the
before that
one-
one was,
Was there one before that one?
yeah,
Wait.
an hour ago. Temujin? I don't know if I'm saying that right. It has spaghetti with a little flowy pixel art type of thing.
Everyone here has spaghetti, honey.
Flowy,
Oh, God.
Flowy from Undertale. However you
All
say
I'm
it.
going to...
I like Flowey. Thought he was
All
cute
I-
and evil.
All I'm gonna say is Alec Greer's post made me chuckle, and that's as far as I'm gonna go with it. Drummer Shy says, "Let's do this." Got crackers and water, the ultimate dinner.
That's racist.
That's right, Gabe. That's racist.
Kira Questy has some. What is that?
That it looks like.
Is it pizza?
She's dinner in bed because my head hurts from my concussion my horse gave me a few days ago.
Oh,
Now that's
no.
being a hardcore My Little Pony fan right there.
Yeah, darn right. I'm gonna make this work. I don't care if I get a concussion.
Wow, well, get better, Kira. Concussions are no.
Yes, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, it does. Imperius has a big bowl of blueberry pancake Captain Crunch. Okay, I gotta admit, when I first saw this picture, I thought it was a bunch of peas and corn, and I was like, "That's a lot of like healthy food." Now I feel a lot better about it. It's a big bowl of blueberry pancake Captain Crunch. Oh, there's a semi-perfect podcast apparently.
What country do I have to move to
The-
get that?
The loyal Brony has some pizza with Mountain Dew.
Jory has pizza and breadsticks. Heck
Nice.
yeah. Let's see here.
Lots
Just
of pizzas.
refreshing the Twitter real quick. I think I got them all. So big topic for tonight is gonna be about the Steve Harvey Show. For those that don't know, I was on the Steve Harvey Show this past week. It aired. I know. Some of you probably are pretty surprised. And what we're going to be doing here very shortly is going to be actually showing the full clip of the segment. Some people haven't seen it yet in its entirety. So we're gonna watch it, and then I'm gonna basically give the lowdown, how this came to be, what happened while I was there, what happened during the show. As you can imagine, a lot was edited out, and then the aftermath.
When you cried and all that stuff.
When you started swearing.
I'm so glad they cut that out. Like there
me
were a
too,
few
trust
times
me.
where the producer was telling me, "Hey, stop picking your nose," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea."
Well, that's the
No.
beauty of blackmail. That's not racist. I was not meaning anything by that.
You're right. Maybe it'll show up.
Maybe
later,
it will.
but Dez posted Tic Tacs with the show. That's nice. Oh, and Dusty Cat has a picture of his Smarties.
Ooh,
I'm
Canadian
so glad.
Smarties or American Smarties?
What's
They
the difference?
they're huge Smarties.
Then they are Canadian.
Okay. Yeah, you did say Canadian right there in the post.
Where does one get those?
Canada?
Well,
That's-
no shit,
yes.
Sherlock. Is there a way to get them around here?
Oh man. So
You're not
before
wrong.
we get going, we usually go around. How was everyone's week? Anyone have anything interesting to report besides me?
You are interesting, but no.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try and compete with
How
your story.
interesting.
Interesting enough.
Interesting that the entire podcast wants to hear about it right now.
Race and I went to Monster Jam.
Yeah,
you
we
see-
did.
Did you
Jam.
see Creech?
No.
Unfortunately.
I
Monster
was
truck?
I
We
was
did?
I asked that when we were at the show. I'm like, why the hell didn't Monster Trucks sponsor a monster truck and
Yeah.
make
right?
it into a Creech monster truck? I'm
Because
like,
they
what the
spent
heck?
all their money on their amazing
I guess
story.
marketing and I don't know.
Story.
For the record, Sarah and I did see that movie.
We
We
did.
have
It's-
gone to the theaters to watch that movie. I dragged her in because I wanted popcorn, and I said, "Let's
That is
watch
a good reason.
it." It was a good reason.
You can order
Um,
popcorn outside of theaters in case you didn't know.
It's not the same. It's just
Well,
not the
yeah,
same.
but if I'm gonna do that, I might as well see a movie too. But now that, I know what I'm having for dinner tonight. It was a good question. But I mean, I guess I could just jump into this whole Steve Harvey bit. I know not
Yeah.
many people actually care about this.
Nope.
Nope.
Go ahead.
What's Steve Harvey?
Steve Harvey. Well, first off, what we're gonna
He was
do
the guy who
here-
voiced the donkey in Shrek.
All
Oh, I
so
thought
shall we
so.
That's
play the
racist.
clip?
Shrek, come on now. Come on. What are we doing, Shrek?
Was this like he's about to like fight Shrek or something?
He does.
Come on!
What the heck? Okay.
Oh, goodness.
So are we wanting to play this clip now?
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna watch this, and then a reminder for those of us here on the podcast talking. There are a number of people who probably haven't seen it yet. Well, no, that's a lie. There's most people here have probably already seen it, but for those that haven't seen it, I guess we'll kind of let it play through. Don't worry about like laughing or whatever, but
Yes,
we'll
sir.
just
Right, and can we give a
don't
shout out
mess
to...
up my.
Oh, who's the person that uploaded this on YouTube for us?
I know there's Z's in the name. You want me to look it up?
Yeah,
It
'cause
is
I'm already on the screen.
Sorry.
Spazz DHN
Thank
posted
you.
this clip, a high quality clip of it on YouTube, and yeah, they're risking their channel for the sake of all of us. So thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
But yeah, so Sarah, do you have that synced up, and do we have it for everybody here in the podcast?
It's in the link in the chat already, and I've got it full screen right now on my computer.
All right, so is
Look at you
everyone
go.
here ready to go?
Yep.
Yep.
Someone want to do the countdown?
Well, Ray, since it was you, I think it's only fair. Count us down.
Saberspark.
All right, let's do it. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi, everybody. I'm back with my buddy, clinical psychologist Dr. John Duffy, and together we're helping viewers decide if certain things that they do are weird. Let's find out what's happening with Jeff. Jeff, what's going on with you?
Well, I am a huge fan of a show that you don't typically see grown men watching. Back in 2011, my girlfriend suggested that I watch a show of the new generation of My Little Pony. And I was resistant. And I said, there's no way, not what I'm into, not gonna touch it. And she made a deal with me. She said, you watch one episode and I'll never bring it up again. And so I ended up finding the show really interesting. And the characters that were on the show surprised me. I ended up really liking it, watched the entire first season in 3 days. And yeah, it's been quite a ride. I mean, at this point, I'm a full-blown brony. That's the name.
A full-blown what?
Brony. We took bro and pony and combined it to brony. Yeah. So it spiraled into other aspects of my life. Like now I make a bunch of YouTube videos about My Little Pony. And I competed in demolition derbies. And what I have my girlfriend do is paint up the cars as the characters. So I'll pull out into this demolition derby arena where all these guys have these mean-looking machines that they're ready to wreck. And I'll pull out in a pink machine with cute balloons and butterflies on it. And I say, bring it on, guys. And I actually ended up winning a demolition derby in that pink machine right there. And all the competitors were pissed.
Okay. All right.
Here comes my buddy.
Oddly enough, Jeff, the good news for you is you are not the first brony I've ever come across in my practice. And I don't mind the idea that you're interested in programming that has empowered women in it. I think that's very progressive of you. And so it's not all bad news. I would warn you that sometimes if you're engaged only in this kind of thing, it can become a little regressive and unhealthy. So be careful of that. I fear that you might be stepping into that territory just a little bit here.
And that's because of the demolition derby cars being painted up as ponies?
And everything else you've said.
All these moms.
You're watching a little girl show. You painted your car pink. I'm just trying to figure out what is it about the pony that made you sit down and watch a whole damn season of it.
Well, to be fair, when I did sit down and start watching those 3 days worth of 26 episodes, about halfway through.
26 episodes.
Yeah, about halfway through, I
of a
stopped.
damn cartoon, though.
Oh,
Steve's gotta get think that's a lot.
I tell you something, Jeff. I like you the way you are. I think there's something wrong with you.
I could have told you that.
Yeah. It's weird, it's stupid, but I love you for having the courage and the guts to paint your car after Pretty Pony and drive it around there. And I just think it's fascinating, man. I love you. I love y'all just as crazy as you want to be. Is it weird? Yes, it's weird. Thanks to Jeff. Special thanks to you, Bridget. I love my buddy John Duffy. We'll be back, man.
So how was the experience, my little weirdo?
No kidding. I mean, he figured me out fast. And he's like, this guy is weird. I'm like, damn, they're on to me. So obviously, a lot of people have questions in regards to how did this come together? How did I end up on the show? What happened during the show? All that stuff. Mm-hmm. So, first off, as we just watched that clip, did you guys see while the, Dr. Duffy was talking, how I kind of had that moment where as he was explaining to me what was wrong, I had that moment where I kind of like glanced up. It was, I mean, you'll see it's
I watched the frame by frame.
Yeah, exactly. If you go back and watch it, you'll see there's a moment in there where something clicks, and all of a sudden I go, oh, okay. So this is how we're going to go. And I'm sure I know Sarah's seen this. Even Saber's probably seen it a number of times at conventions we've been at. It's that moment where I'm basically like, oh, this is the game we're going to play. All right. And I'll get into detail as to why that came up. So, yeah, so that was the clip. First off, how this whole thing came to be. Back in December, it was early December, and I got a message on Twitter from somebody who was claiming to be a producer on the Steve Harvey Show saying, hey, we want to have you on our show. Basically, can you contact me? And I noticed, I went on, I found out what I could of this guy, and I noticed that he had also contacted someone in this podcast, Gabe.
Yes,
So
he had.
You had already you had gotten contacted by the same guy.
And oh, sorry.
No, go on. What were you gonna say?
No, he sent me a message on Twitter about an hour and a half before he messaged you and said the same thing. Hey, I work for Steve Harvey and I'd like to talk to you. I was asleep, so he waited an hour and a half. I didn't respond. An hour and a half later, you called me, Jeff, and you're like, so this guy from the Steve Harvey Show contacted me. I was like, dude, that's awesome. You should do it. And he's like, yeah, well, he also contacted you. In fact, he contacted you first. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, go look. And so I looked, and sure enough, he had. And so Jeff and I, over the course of 2 days, were both in contact with this guy. And he was kind of flip-flopping. Who am I going to go with? I guess he didn't like my answers because he just stopped responding to me. Because if you don't mind me saying, when he contacted us and he called both of us, what he wanted to know is what made us love My Little Pony, why we were such massive bronies. And my answer was, well, I'm not a massive brony. I mean, I find the show interesting. And he's like, oh. And then I talked about the union and my agent stuff. He's like, wait, you have an agent? You're with the union? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, well, it's nice talking to you. And then he hung up. I think I just blew it. And then I'm like, hey, so I gave you the heads up. And I was like, Jeff, he said this and I said this and he didn't seem to like that. So then you went in and you were like, oh, yeah, I love My Little Pony. And you went, I'll let you tell the rest of it. But
well, yeah, so what I found out something that I didn't know in advance. I got a message from somebody, and they essentially were saying, hey, I love that you did the show. They came to me first, and I sent them your way. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. And I don't know if he'd mind me saying here, but it was denoted. So
of all people.
Yeah, he got contact. And of course, we're all sitting here going, Matt, kind of playing it out, like, how would it have played out with each of, like, if Gabe had gone on, if Matt had gone on being denoted. And I actually, surprisingly, had turned down this guy because I didn't think I was going to be able to get time off from work. So I said, it's way, because they were going to film this a week later, like the following week. This was going to be filmed. I had to be in Chicago, and the guy's like, as travel and everything, you don't have to worry about any of that. It's just a matter of, can we have you on this date? And I turned it down, and then I brought it up to at work to my manager, and I was like, yeah, so funny enough, I got contacted by the show, and he looks at me and goes, so you're gonna do it? And I'm like, I didn't think I'd be able to get time off, and he's like, oh yeah, you should do. And of course then he started talking to himself of all the bad things that could happen. And I will say, they were very transparent, and they never hid the fact that this was for a segment called Is It Weird? It was always.
I appreciated that.
And
Welcome, guys, to our new segment. Is it gay? Oh no, I got Schmirkeldorfed.
And like Gabe said, I appreciate that too, in the fact that it's not like they tried to kind of hey, we want you on the show for this, and then I showed up, and next thing you knew, I'm on this segment called Is It Weird? There were things that I didn't know before I got there, and I'll explain. But
be up in a sweater vest.
Yeah, with Dumb and Dumber.
My little Swedish boy named ACRacebest.
Well, I went to go work
Can
the
you fit
Matterhorn.
into these clogs?
So he also gave. Oh man, where's that? Oh, that's from Sarah. He also gave examples. He's like, you can look it up on YouTube, see how those things worked in the past. And he mentioned that I would be on, or that whoever ends up going on is going to be on the show with a woman who sells breast milk jewelry.
I thought it was placenta.
Well, and
placenta was included, and also umbilical cord, a little bit of hair.
Right.
Nice.
I saw the show when it aired. So.
Yes. So So following all of that, after talking to work and basically having, I brought it up to other people, essentially expecting people to be like, oh, it's a good thing you turned it down initially. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this is really kind of, probably a once in a lifetime experience. And yeah, it's set up to make me, I would be the brunt of the joke. But I'm like, this is kind of a challenge that I'd like to take on. And for a number of reasons. One, I was like, I really wonder if I could, handle this type of situation here. I think it'd be fun as a challenge. And then on the other side, I was like, and if I don't do it, who might they end up putting on the show? There were certain things that I was kind of thinking about, maybe I'll take one for the team here.
Fandom, get down!
I got this! Oh, wow, I just quoted Equestria Girls.
Wow, you did, you nerd.
Oh, no.
Disgusting.
Shut up. So I ended up contacting the guy back, basically saying, if you found someone else, that's cool, but if you need me, I'm available. I didn't expect to hear back from him. I did, obviously. And things just progressed. They wanted to know more about my story. And over the phone...
Diaper.
I don't, but someone who was on their show did.
Steve.
Throughout all of the explaining, I never lied to them. I never told them. I never used the word addicted, which is something they wanted me to use. I never used the word obsessed because I only described myself the way I would describe myself. He even asked at one point, he's like, do you have toys of the show? Which, Gabe, was probably where you lost out because I think you said no.
Yes, I did. He asked if I bought toys, and I said no. I do have toys. I've been given a lot of toys, but yeah.
See,
I enjoy
like
the
a
show.
lawyer, Gabe. Spoken like a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly.
He only asked me if I
Depends on what your definition
had toys. And same. I haven't purchased. I think I've purchased one figurine of Rainbow Dash. Those what are they? The pop or whatever. And all the shirts I own, my parents give me on Christmas or my birthday. They love giving me My Little Pony shirts. So yeah, I mean, like I said, as things progressed, I kept getting contacted. They eventually were setting up travel and everything. And next thing I knew, I'm like, holy crap, I'm actually doing this. I'm gonna go on national television and pronounce, hey, I'm a brony and I'm cool with it. Whatever.
And I like that on the things you packed, you included the My Little Pony hairbrush.
So there was
Everyone in the
a
audience
reason.
is wondering why you didn't bother to use it on your hair.
Well, okay, so they actually, so another thing is they begged me. They're like, please bring as many My Little Pony toys as you please just bring it. And I'm like I'm not gonna bring anything I care about. So I ended up bringing like the two little Rainbow Dash figurines that they do have on the show. Those were mine, but they were on their knees begging for those. They also wanted me to wear or bring in some brony shirts. They had me taking picture of like certain wardrobe stuff, which I don't know why, because they didn't end up using any of that. And they asked me, and this is key, they asked me about certain sizes of clothing. Specifically, what I'm referring to is my jacket size for like a suit.
Oh, man.
To which I am a 40R. R stands for regular. All right. So then I ended up flying out to Chicago, and it was really freaking cold. And a little side note here is when I was at the airport getting ready to fly, I saw this lady who I thought looked really similar to somebody who's on The Walking Dead. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what if it's her? And I'm like, well, wait, that doesn't make sense because like they film it in Georgia. And then she turned, and it obviously wasn't her. Well, then I was standing by the sandwich area, and I'm like, man, I'm really hungry. And I turn around, and for those that know The Walking Dead, I kid you not, the character, I should say the actor who played Abraham was standing right in my face. And I was like, oh, wow. So I did end up seeing a Walking Dead actor, and it totally was just kind of just one of those, oh, that's cool. So, anyways, I get to Chicago. I didn't have to worry about anything. All I needed to do was at one point press a link on a text I had telling my ride that I was there. I didn't need to know anything about my hotel, my flights, which means essentially I could have flown out and then never been seen again.
So
nice.
basically you landed in Chicago, you got into a random car sent by a random link on your phone and driven to some undisclosed location.
All right, so I'm a Southern Californian. I don't do cold weather. It was 3 degrees when I landed, and I walked out, and the shoes I was wearing are just your typical Vans, and the cold went straight to my feet, and I was like, oh, what is this? It was so cold. So everybody I met, I asked, how do people live here? And I don't think anyone had a good answer for me once. So they drive me out to the hotel, really nice hotel. I was in the business section. And when I woke up that morning, I was kind of like, mentally preparing the night before and just kind of enjoying the whole setting. I'm like, holy crap, this is it. And when I woke up in the morning, I went down to have their breakfast, but it was literally right outside of my room. I was like, I didn't even have to walk. This is great. These are the details I know people really wanted to know, by the way.
I love it.
I was dying. I was like, what was his commute like?
What, did someone just ask you a question, by the way?
Yeah, was it an omelet? Was it pancakes? What'd you have?
It was a continental. They had donuts, and I forget what else they had, but I just ate donuts.
They did know you.
Good call.
Yes. No, there was fruit. I had an apple and a banana. Cereal, hard-boiled eggs and whatnot. But it was great because it was literally right outside. Because I guess they have these on like every floor of this hotel. Is your breakfast, so you don't even have to go down the elevator. And I had gotten dressed, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even have to get dressed. I also at one point flooded my bathroom. I don't think I've told anyone this part of my story yet.
They expected it.
Most bathtubs, like, okay, I was cold. And I'm like, I'm just gonna like curl up in like a hot bath, and I left the bathroom and didn't realize it didn't have one of those like little drain things that most bathtubs I've ever been in have. And I walk out, and all of a sudden I just see water creeping all around the floor, and I'm like,
oh no,
oh, that's bad. So I flooded my hotel bathroom while I was there.
Now that's weird.
No, Steve. All right. So next morning, I jump into another unmarked, car. This time it was an SUV, and Everyone there sounds like they're in the mafia, by the way.
It's Chicago.
Yeah, I know. I just was like, wow. And they take me to the Steve Harvey. Well, it's like NBC studios. And I go in and I immediately head towards where I'm told to go, and I'm stopped, and I had to go through security, which I didn't realize I had to do. And so like I made it a decent way in before you went through security, right? And I was like, I should say yes, but no. So then a producer came out. They set me up in this green room, which essentially was a closet with a couch and a TV, which showed what was going on stage.
Hey, that's a pretty nice closet if you got an entire couch in there. Unless it was like up on its side.
It was a decent sized well, yeah, it was up on its side at an angle. And so I get there, and at this point, one of the producers came in and started introduced, hey, how you doing? How was everything? And they're like, all right, what we're gonna do is take care of your wardrobe. And so they saw what I was wearing, and they're like, nah, we'll dress you up nice. I'm like, oh, sweet.
Nice.
And right now I'm like, dude, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna be like made up for television. This is the greatest thing. I see somebody in the comment section, by the way, saying I should have vlogged this experience. I asked in advance if I was allowed to, and essentially anything behind the doors of the NBC studios I wouldn't have been able to vlog. I mean, I could have, but I asked them in advance, and they're like, I mean, no. I was like, okay. And the reasoning for it was funny. They're like, well, the whole area is kind of set up like a maze in case somebody like breaks in. I'm like, yeah, they could just follow the noise. Like, they're gonna be. I'm like, if someone breaks in. But yeah, so they kind of have this intricate setup. And so they set me up with a wardrobe, and they walk in with this suit, a nice dark blue suit with the suit jacket and the pants and everything. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna look good. I put on the pants, they're great. I'm like, man, I am sexy. And then I put on the shirt, and I go to put on the blazer, and I'm struggling. I'm like, did I gain a lot of weight in the last like 24 hours? Because I can't even come close to buttoning this thing up. And the lady walks in, and she's like, oh, that seems a little small. And I pull it off, and I look at the size. It's a 40 slim.
Oh,
I'm like, I'm pretty sure they don't make this mistake a lot, considering imagine
someone got fired for that omission.
I don't know.
No, someone got hired to make it.
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. And I even asked. I was like, because all these clothes have tags on them. I'm like, do you guys literally just go out and buy clothes like the night before? Because that's when they asked me. The day before is when they were asking me for my clothes size, and the lady just rolled her eyes. She's like, you have no idea. They have to go out and buy clothes for all of their guests, like a bunch of different options. I'm like, holy crap.
Suddenly, that costuming credit in every movie I've ever seen makes a hell of a lot more sense.
But I just was like, geez, they couldn't find the right stuff. Okay, whatever. So that's how I end up in what they eventually go, oh, we have another idea. And they pull out the striped shirt that you see and a vest. And they're like, oh, now, okay, this looks good. We'll go with this. And they had to stretch out the vest was small. On me, and so they're like sitting there, okay, lean back, we're gonna pull this out, and I'm just like sitting there like, well, this is interesting, all right. And then they have me do makeup, and at this point I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna look so good. And the lady's like,
comes in with a giant puffball and just slaps you in the face and walks out.
it was actually, she walked in with a chainsaw, and I was like, oh. I was excited.
Reductive surgery.
Yeah. So that's the first answer for a lot of questions was no, I did not dress myself. So then they did the makeup and whatnot. That went quick. I actually think I was getting makeup while the psychologist who you saw in there, John Duffy, was also getting his hair done, and he was just talking it up. So I should have figured he was a regular guy. So then comes the haircut. All right. And this is like one of my favorite parts of the story. So there's another area where there's someone else who does makeup, and that guy wasn't working with anyone, so he's just sitting there, talking, just, hey, how so tell me about yourself. And I'm like, hey, I'm Jeff. Which by the way, now everyone's like, we know your name. If you call me Jeff at a convention, I'm still gonna be confused. I'm gonna be like,
yeah, I still call him Race.
Yeah, I'm confused already. Like when you called me Jeff earlier, Gabe, that felt weird.
Yeah, and I only did that because of them calling you Jeff.
Yeah, isn't that just wrong? So
It does feel wrong.
So the guy's sitting there and he has this razor and he's just like, it's not like your scissor haircut, it's like a razor haircut, and he's like, this way it's gonna be all layered and it's gonna look good. But the guy was like pissed. And this should have been my first sign that something was probably not going to go great, because he was like complaining about work, and they're just talking crap, by the way, about people. And I'm laughing. I'm like, wow, there's just like no closed mouths around here.
That's because the cameras are all up front.
They're like, man, I couldn't get time off. I hate this and I hate that. And I'm just like, wow, these guys just talk crap about everything. It's great. And I'm not facing the mirror this whole haircut. And he's just. And finally, he turns me around, and I'm excited. I'm like, I can't wait to see what my haircut, a TV haircut's going to look like. And he turns me around, and I swear to God, I was looking at Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber.
That's how you came up with that image so quickly when I finally saw your video air, and I was like, dude, oh my gosh, your hair. And you immediately, like, before I even hit send, sent me the Dumb and Dumber picture. I was like, yep, that is right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so this whole haircut's going, and then the guy goes to get the gel, and I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna really see him work his magic. All right, he walks up to me, I'm smiling, I'm like, oh man, here we go, let's see how good I'm gonna look. He takes a wad of gel and smacks it right on top of my head, and just from top down, just squishing it against my forehead, just making sure it stays nice and Lloyd Christmassy. and I'm like, so when does the styling part start? And of course, makeup guys sitting there going, oh my God, this looks so good. Oh, you just wait till you see it. And I'm just like, what is this? Are you kidding me? I'm waiting until he's like, all right, you're done. I figured there's gotta be more. So I'm like, okay, Steve Harvey Show, game on. I'm still ready for this shit. Bring it. Because, again, I know why I went on that show. I understand the whole point of it is to get a laugh out of the person sitting in that chair. But I'm like, bring it. So,
do you mind if I interrupt to ask a question?
What's up?
So the suit was not shaped right, not the right size. The haircut was a pissed off barber.
I mean, I'm not saying his emotions what the haircut was. I'm kind of expecting that.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Do you think they intentionally set you up for Is It Weird, or were these just complete coincidences that added to Is It Weird?
I kind of always like to err on, I'm sure they weren't. But at the same time,
I feel like so well.
I feel like some of these mistakes, I'm like, there's no way that they can regularly make some of these mistakes. Like the jacket size, I'm like, I doubt when George Lopez came on the show, they're like, oh, we accidentally got you small pants. Well, here's some sweatpants. These will fit just fine. Like,
in that case, someone was speeding down to Armani to pick up a new pair of pants.
The haircut, you're not George Lopez
though. Level.
Yeah, no, the haircut, honestly, was my first sign of, okay, I see where this is kind of going. Because they're acting like this is the greatest haircut I've seen today. And I'm like, this is not a good haircut. I mean, you guys have seen the show. And that, you'll notice, once I got back into the green room, I started parting my hair. And if anyone said anything about, like, oh, your hair looks like it was messed with, I was going to say, oh, I'm sorry, I just naturally brushed it to the side. Like, I don't, because before I went out there, I had to, like, kind of rework it a little bit. And it even now doesn't fit right on my head. I've joked about getting a Chicago haircut, and I don't know if I'd ever go back. But Yeah, so then it's almost showtime, and the producer comes in, and what they do for the segment to make sure that you're all set to be on air and not like stutter through your story is they'll run through it with you. And here's something that I was really surprised about. When I was asked to be on the show, I didn't think I was going to have as much time to talk as I did. I thought the lead-in was basically going to be, hey guys, I'm into a show that not a lot of grown men watch. I like to watch My Little Pony. Is it weird? Like, I thought it was going to be that short. They gave me this half-page script that I'm supposed to read. And I'm looking at the script, and the first line... Actually, you know what's funny? I just realized I have this saved somewhere. I kept it. But
you know what's funny? I know where this is going. Go ahead.
The first line involves me saying, I am obsessed with blah, blah, blah. And
yes,
I'm looking at this.
He told me to say that, too. He was so harping on... I want to hear how obsessed you are with you remember Caesar. I mean, that is how he talked. You need to I want to know how you're just obsessed with this show and how it's just like your life and how you are just so obsessed with it. I'm like, I'm not really obsessed with it, man.
Good old Caesar.
And like, I never said I was obsessed either. And that's why when I saw this on the paper, I went, like, I didn't verbally say I'm not saying that, but whenever we did these, because they do run-throughs with you, and the reason there's a script, again, I actually didn't mind it so much because it gave me a better idea of how much time I had to say, and it was based on what I had already told them. But I understand where they get people, because for me, I felt really comfortable in this setting. Like, let's do this. There's some people who probably start freaking out at this point, like I am about to go on national television. And those same people probably get handed a script and think, I have to say this word for word. Mm-hmm. And when I read that, I went through the script. I'm like, I'm going to go through the structure, but they are not going to get me to say what they want me to say here. I'm gonna say it how I've been saying it this whole time, which, as you saw, I said I'm a huge fan of a show that you don't usually see guys watching. I didn't say obsessed. And so I'm like, that was like, I guess the fourth like check mark of barrier that I'm like, well, there's so the lady came in to run through it with me one more time, and I was one of the previous segments was on, and it was about a girl who has never been kissed, 26-year-old, only dated once. And it's funny because one of the things that got cut out of her segment was Steve going on about how she was talking about things that she likes, which was her cat and Disneyland or Disney World. And she said she had an annual pass. And at one point, Steve's like, yeah, don't mention that to anybody.
What?
And like, yeah, and that's what I was like. I'm sitting there like, huh.
Which
and I was already getting kind of fired up.
Enough, I don't remember seeing that in the actual airing of it.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
they
I
cut
always...
that one?
They
well, no, the whole segment was in there, but they cut out the don't say it.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Thing. Like, a lot of this stuff is filmed to be cut. Because they want to get the best chunks in there. But when he said that, I at one point was like, I wonder if I should crack a joke at one point about having an annual pass to Disneyland.
Yes.
But the reason I wasn't going to is because I didn't know for sure that her thing was going to be on my same show. I didn't know if they filmed this thing like in different segments. I didn't know. So I wasn't going to go that route. But I did ask the lady right before I was walked to the stage. I asked her, is there anything I'm not allowed to say? And she looks at me. She goes, "Well, this isn't live television, so I mean, if anything has to be edited or whatever, you're good." And it was at that moment that I knew I was gonna say the word "shit" on national television. And
George Carlin approves.
I kind of already had a game plan, and I already had it set up what points I wanted to hit, because I didn't know how they were gonna edit all this. And it's funny, somebody asked who wore it better, Bridget or Jeff. When I saw how Bridget looked, she was the other one on the segment, I'm like, damn, she got made up all nice. What happened to me? Jesus. I was just cracking up. I was like, all right. So then they walk me out to the stage. We're going out. We're getting ready. It's time, guys. It is game time. They have us sit down. And I knew Bridget was going to go first, which I liked because I was going to get a grasp of how much time, how much interaction, how much I'd be able to just kind of interact with Steve and Duffy, once the time came. And And we're sitting there in front of the audience and everything. And Steve Harvey walked up right before the segment started and shook our hands and thanked us for coming onto the show. And then he went to his seat, and Bridget started going. And I don't know if it's because I was on the segment with Bridget, but like her thing, a lot of people, everyone I tell the story to, were like, "Now that's freaking weird that she makes jewelry out of breast milk." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh, that's kind of cool." Maybe it's because I was literally like in this situation with her, so I was kind of like, I got your back. I don't know.
You also got to see her wearing it around her neck, and having seen it, that's pretty cool. Weird, but cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Did it look neat?
Yeah, she crafted breast milk into like a little quartz crystal hanging around her neck.
Yeah.
She made a ring out of.
They look pretty.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's crunchy like sugar.
No,
she said that
it's solid.
there was
It's completely solid.
Yeah, it's polymerized.
Oh,
I wonder if she could like do it to like a piece of poop.
I'm sure if you asked, she could figure out a way.
Baby's
let's not
first
ask.
She does
dump.
it for placenta, so.
Yeah. So
I do love Steve's comment to that placenta jerky.
Yeah. No, and you know, so I'm sitting there and I'm just like, oh man. So her segment ends. They do their, you know, we'll come back and find out from what's up with Jeff. I bet it's weird or whatever. And the set people come up. They set up the ponies. Now, as I think Matt, you pointed out, the brush. I had the brush there. I was not asked to bring the brush. However, I use it. It's in my toiletry bag. And the reason I brought it was because I had a feeling that if Steve had any idea of what this was going to be about, that at some point he was going to... I just had this sense that at some point he was going to crack a joke about brushing Pony's hair. Like, oh, you're all sitting around doing this, all you grown guys. I just had this feeling it was going to come up. And I purposely brought the brush on there just so I could offer him to brush one of the pony's hair. I wasn't going to bring it.
To brush his own, but
that would have been better. But no, like, you know, I wasn't gonna bring it up because then automatically I knew that it would be like, oh my god, what a weirdo. He likes brushing the hair.
He needs to bring it up for it to not be weird.
Right. And that's the thing. As I'm getting ready to go, I'm kind of running through, all right, there's certain things I can't do that I'm used to doing. When I'm on stage at a convention, I'm all about self-deprecating humor. Like, hey, you know, a laugh at my expense, cool. We're already there to get a laugh at my expense. But I knew anything I said was going to be taken at face value by not only the audience, but the TV audience. And it was something that I'm like, everything I say, this is as careful as I have ever had to be about the points I make. I need to be, you know, just mentally prepared for this. Because anything I say, they can take it out of context. And I'm like, I need to make sure that I don't give them something that can be edited to make me look bad, to make, in general, the fandom look bad. Like, you know, I knew things were resting on my shoulders here. And so then the segment gets going. And you've seen now how things kick off. I mentioned how when the psychologist Duffy was talking,
please, Dr. Duffy.
He
didn't go through several years of medical school or psychiatric school to be called Mr. Thank you very much.
Do we know that?
No, we don't.
It's TV acting school, medical, the doctor in acting, like a psychologist.
So all I'm saying is that when it got to when he started going through his like, oh, I've met, you know, bronies before. I think it's really empowering women. That's great. All this stuff. And then he's like, but, you know, he got into basically the warning, the concern. And that's when I kind of like,
very.
Yeah, that's when I kind of like tilted my head back and went, oh, this is how it's going to go. Right before we went on stage, Caesar came up to me and mentioned how we already know what Duffy's going to say, because he goes off of my script and knows, that's how he knows me. And so he hasn't even heard from me yet. He's reading what the show says I'm going to say. And that's how he makes his assessment of me.
Ha! You could have totally gone on there and pretended you were into something else and just stumped him and made him have to improvise. Then it wouldn't have aired. Oh, well.
And then it probably would have aired. But he came in and said he already knows what he's going to say, and it's really good. It's really good. He's already met some bronies in the past, and it's all good. It's great. So I went in going, all right, guards up. And then I'm told this by one of the producers, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I don't have to worry about the psychologist. I just have to worry about Harvey. You know, that's the only concern I'm going to have throughout this. And then when Duffy lays in that line, I go, okay, so here I am on the spot, and he's calling me out, saying, you know, regression and all the stuff. And that's when I'm like, immediately in my head, I'm like, you pulled that whole assessment off of knowing 3 things about me. That I'm a grown man who likes My Little Pony. I make videos about the show. I paint up cars. Those 3 things gave you that full assessment. You don't know what I do for a living. You don't know what other hobbies I have. But here you are going. And he makes, like, the point he makes isn't one that's necessarily, like, wrong. Like, yeah, you always want to make sure you don't, like, overdo something.
Like Zootopia.
But I wanted to know.
Where that came from.
Sorry. You deserve
it. You.
I'm sorry.
Like I said, I wanted to know where he was pulling this from. So that's why I called him out immediately, and I went, you're saying this because I paint up cars. And, you know, he had his follow-up where he's like, no. You know, it's everything you said. Now, this is where everyone watching, you guys don't know any of this. Essentially, what you saw was you got this big old beautiful double cheeseburger from In-N-Out, okay? The bread's your beginning, and then the bread is the end.
For those of you on the East Coast or not near the West, an In-N-Out burger is a delicious hamburger shack.
I miss it so much.
Double, 2 beef patties, 2 cheeses, great food. Good
they
times. Come out here and try it.
Took the bread and the bread, and that's what you get. You don't get any of the middle stuff, which I guess, like, on one end, I'm happy because I was kind of convinced that they were going to actually cut out where Steve ended up giving me props at the end. But I'm like, I don't know how they could.
I'm so glad they kept that. You deserve that. And it was really neat to see that you handled yourself so well that despite their best efforts, I think I texted you this, despite their best efforts, you still didn't come across as weird, you know? And there was no denying that. So Steve had to give you a compliment or he would have looked like a jerk. That's my assessment of the whole thing.
So go on.
I was going to say, I loved how much you threw off Dr. Duffy with your response. The look in his eyes is that you could see it briefly before he composed himself.
I think he hates you.
Well, I had to call it out. I'm like, oh, and
he was not expecting it in the least.
Well, and you know what? Neither was I. I didn't think. I was told that everything he was going to say was good, so I went in kind of assuming like, well, I'm already on a good foot here, and then Steve's going to probably be like, whoa, this is weird. After I made the point about the cars, and he said, well, it's about everything you just said. This is the conversation you guys don't see. So I look at Duffy and I go, being a brony doesn't define who I am. It's a part of my life, and I love it, but it doesn't define me. And then, I think I kind of got like a nod from that. And I'm like, also, you want to know why I think this is a good thing? And of course, this all got cut, right? I went into how I think it's a fantastic thing that a show like My Little Pony can actually make us talk positively about little girls' entertainment these days, where for years it's always been looked down upon. It used to be like the kiss of death if you admitted to watching a little girl show back in elementary school. And it's like there's always been that stigma, and finally we have a show that shows up that's My Little Pony, but the creators have made it something that the whole family can enjoy. I think that's freaking awesome.
It's amazing.
And of course that didn't make it in.
Yeah, that ticks me off.
I know. I was like, and I played that one in my head. I'm like, I want to hit that point if it comes up. And of course it was thrown to me immediately. I went, all right, I'm hitting this point. And then of course it got to Steve. And there's a lot of tangents Steve gets into while on the show. And this is why I'm not surprised things were cut out. I'm just surprised how much was cut out. But he goes, this isn't just weird. This is stupid. At this point I'm already chuckling. I'm like, okay, like it's hard to argue against that, all right? And I want to make it clear too, because I've seen some people ask. Some people have said I looked really nervous. There's two things. It wasn't so much nervousness as much as it was I was kind of uncomfortable in those clothes. Like the collar was kind of tight around my neck, and I didn't realize how much I was squinting until I saw the clip. I'm like, wow, it looked like I was squinting a lot. But I wasn't like nervous. I was already there. There was no point in being nervous about anything. Once I was only nervous up to the point of having to say what I needed to say, and that's because I don't like memorizing, and I essentially had to memorize the structure of how I was presenting everything because that's what they specifically wanted. So that's why if it does come across like, oh, he looked like he was nervous, I think it's more of I was making sure I hit all the points of the story.
No, you were definitely there. I saw that part. I didn't see nerves.
I was at that point I was already having fun. And so yeah, so he goes on this tangent about how some guy told him to never say stupid on national television, but this still
kept it.
This is stupid. They did because he brings it up later too. And then at this point, by the way, I never hear from Duffy again. Like when I made that point early on, he was done. There was no more Duffy. As you notice in all the clips of him, he's just sitting there smiling and nodding when Steve makes points. But I knew I had to take him down first. And then I'm like, how I got to rope Steve onto my side somehow. And we went through a number of things. And here's something, and I got to admit this, folks. A lot of people were really proud of me, but you're giving me too much credit. Steve asked me, because I said, Steve, I've watched a lot of cartoons. It's not just My Little Pony. So, of course, Steve asked me the question, what other cartoons do you watch?
You didn't say Zootopia.
And I had this smile just creep on my face because I knew everybody watching that knows me.
I just imagine like the Grinch smile.
It was
exactly.
The Grinch smile.
Race had a
like,
wonderful, awful idea.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. It was at that moment where I got to say, well, my favorite movie of all time came out this year called Zootopia.
Oh boy.
Now this was weird, and I think I know why this got. If there's a reason that my segment got cut short, this might be why. I don't know the editing process or whatnot, but apparently Steve Harvey might be in court for something lately involving race. I don't know all the details.
Oh my!
And I don't mean me. I don't mean race me. I mean like I guess
yeah.
Said something.
Did he touch you?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
I bring this up because he looks at me and goes, Zootopia? I'm like, yeah, it's a great movie. And he goes, have you ever seen American Gangster? I'm like, no, I haven't. Have you ever seen Training Day? And I say, no. And it's at this point where the audience is like, ooh. And I haven't mentioned this yet. The audience, I've never felt an audience more against me. Like, I felt like the second that I showed up and the lights were on me, everyone just crossed their arms and got into rigidity. And they're like,
I also love that for the breast milk jury lady, they barely cut to the crowd as far as I recall. And when you were on, it was all over them.
Yeah.
So he's hitting up these movies, and Training Day, everyone's like, oh, and I'm like, what the hell is Training Day? Both of these movies, I guess, have Denzel Washington in them. Then he asked me, have you ever seen Braveheart? Yeah. And I said, yes. Have you ever seen Gladiator? I'm like, yes. And Steve leans forward, he goes, you ever seen any movie with black people?
Oh my gosh.
And I just had a moment where I went, I have never in my life had to be more careful about how I answered a question, not only on national television, but I'm sitting.
Is it Space Jam?
I'm sitting.
Django Unchained.
I feel like we should back this up a bit. Right now, he's been through a flight that was booked for him in an undisclosed limousine at an undescribed hotel, through a second car to an undisclosed studio. Go ahead, Race. Answer this question.
I'm in Chicago. I'm on the Steve Harvey Show. Steve Harvey is Steve Harvey, and there's a lot of people on in the audience that were black, and I'm sitting there going, I've never in my life had to be so careful about how I answered a question, because I knew if I answered this in a way, I couldn't make a joke. Like I'm like I gotta just straight face this one, and I kind of just sat there and went, yes, like smiling, just yes, that's all. All I can say is yes. If I go any, and of course Steve starts cracking up. He's like, I don't even know where that came from, and everyone's clapping and happy. But again, the audience was so against me, and it was so weird because I'm used to being in settings where, like, yeah, I'm not always like in the spotlight necessarily, but having an audience that's there to be against you is really weird. And like the stuff that they moan at that you see in the clips. But so he asked that question, and then he keeps shaking his head, and he talks a little bit about how he starts talking about his diet. He's like, I know what it is. I'm on this new diet. I'm hungry. He's going on this tangent, and then so it starts to come back to me, and this is where people start to see. And a lot of people said, I wish he could have finished his story. I'll tell you now how that story actually did finish. It was just edited out. So I start talking about how Steve,
Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I've been holding it off, but I have to go. I have to go meet the family to eat. I love this story though, and I know how it's gonna end, so I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody. It's a great story. It's wonderful.
You know how this story ends.
It's awesome. It's perfect, and it does tick me off that this kind of stuff got cut. And I want you later to tell me more about Caesar, because he follows me on Snapchat, and I see his snaps a lot, and he just fascinates me. And I want to know how tall he is, and if he really talks like that all the time. But that's for later. I have to go.
Get out of here.
I'm sorry, guys. This was fun. I love you, everybody.
Bring me
Good night.
I will. Taco Bell, right?
Griffin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 So it's then that scene where I start talking about how, you know, I the 26 episodes that I've seen, and I'm like, I said, in all fairness, when I got about halfway through, because I already know that Steve's still not on my side. I'm like, I gotta get him, and I know how I'm gonna get him, and I'm gonna cross him off my bucket list here. I gotta get him here. I start telling him.
Edited out George Carlin.
Yeah, here we go. I tell him, I'm like, Steve, do you want to know what I said to myself halfway through watching? Like, you know, because I'd watched all these episodes. And I'm like, do you want to, you know, I got about halfway through. I'm like, Steve, do you want to know what I said to myself when I realized I had become a brony? And Steve kind of leans forward in his chair and goes, what was the first thing you said to yourself when you realized you became a brony? I look him right in the eyes and I say, shit. And I'm so happy because I just said the word shit on national television. I'm like, this
cut.
If it was any non-public or like non-national channel, non-basic channel, you probably would have kept it in.
No, because Steve actually cusses on his show. They would have bleeped it out.
No, fair enough.
But that being said, so I say that, and because that's why I asked in advance. I wanted to make sure that this is something, and they basically like told me like, no, whatever you say, if we have to bleep something, we bleep something. And so I say that, and that's when Steve's looking at me still, right, with that face, and he starts to lean back, and I see a little smile start to show up on his face, and that's when he starts going on about, you know what? You're a messed up dude, but I like you. I like to think that I'm messed up. And therefore, I'm attracted to messed up people.
He's hitting on you.
And he was, and it was really nice.
I hear that joke all the time whenever he says that. Oh my god! All 14 times that I've heard this story, someone's made that joke. Oh, he's hitting on me.
and that's when I got Steve on my side. I had to work for it, but I finally got him to basically, like, he was smiling and he's like, You're messed up, but I like you. And I did not expect him to actually start giving me props like he did for painting up the Demolition Derby cars and for essentially, you know, being a brony. I was like, oh, wow, this is actually going decent. And then, you know, the segment wrapped up. We applauded. I gave my my mic back, and essentially they're like, all right, we're going to set you up with your ride back to the airport. And I'm like, all right, sweet. And I left like 5 minutes after I was done filming. I had changed and I was already on my way out the building and on my way to the airport. And along that whole drive back to the airport, I honestly was like thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I don't know how good that went. And the reason for it had nothing to do with how it ended. It was purely because of the whole thing that threw me off with the psychologist, because I want to say I wasn't ready for it, but I felt like I was able to counter it pretty quickly. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, I just did shit on national television and it got cut. Oh man. But yeah, no, it's what's that?
Put it back on the bucket list.
Now I'm gonna have to try again. But yeah, so went back to the airport, flew home, and then had to keep my mouth shut even through Pacific PonyCon. I was hoping I'd know by Pacific PonyCon so I could tell some of the stories, but it wasn't announced yet. I had to wait until the air date was announced before I could start telling people on social media. So yeah, that was the long end of the story.
Hold on. Looks like Mr. JakeWhyman just finished his video. I think he
Oh my
made
god.
What?
I was waiting for it to upload.
This is gonna be great. We should watch this together.
Context, Saber. Context.
JakeWhyman's he's like a YouTube pooper in a way. He's an editor. He's really funny. And
Oh my gosh.
He's been working on this all day. He's been tweeting about it. So I really want to watch it.
Oh my gosh. I'm already honored.
Before we do, one more question for Race.
Yes.
If Steve Harvey came out to the LA area and there was a night of destruction going on, would there be a demolition derby car available for him?
Oh, I think we'd make sure of it. I don't think he'd get in it though. I think I don't know. I hope he's smarter than I am.
You look at him and go, you're like, Steve, let me ask you a question. Steve, have you watched Cars 2?
Steve, I got a question. How much do you value your vertebra?
Well, and this is the thing, like with this whole show, like if there's one thing that I tell a lot of people, and there's more layers to this, but essentially, I always feel bad when I meet somebody at a convention or whatnot that is afraid of what they enjoy. Mm-hmm. And some people are just deathly afraid to tell their family that they watch a show called My Little Pony, and I might be thrown out, I might lose my friends, all these bad things might happen, and I understand it. Like, I get why people are nervous about that, but I feel like I always kind of say, as long as you're having fun, those that really care about you shouldn't judge you for that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what better way for me to really stand by my point of saying, don't worry, it's going to be okay, than putting myself on national television and saying, see, like, I'm going to do it right now. Here I am on national television, guys. I was asked to be there. I didn't go there saying, guys, I want to tell everyone that I'm a brony. Mm-hmm. But I saw this as an opportunity to at least be like, look, I get that some people are just kind of afraid of the whole point of anyone finding out. And I feel like if there's any better way to hammer in my point about, at least for me, that, like, as far as I sit, I'm very out there. I'm like, hey, my whole family knows, most of my friends know that are close enough to me, and it's just I felt like this was kind of an opportunity for me to put my money where my mouth is. Be able to be like, here it is.
Let's see what JakeWhyman has to say. Let me know you're all ready.
All right, one second. I'm gonna pull it up on the...
Oh my god! Can I just thank JakeWhyman ahead of time for this? I haven't seen it yet, but he made a video actually when I first announced it, and that cracked me up too. So Jake's a cool guy.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, you guys ready?
Yep.
I'm ready for this.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hi, everybody. I'm back with my buddy, clinical psychologist Dr. John Duffy, and together we're helping viewers decide if certain things that they do are weird. Let's find out what's happening with Jeff. Jeff, what's going on with you?
Back in 2011, my girlfriend suggested that I watch a show of the new generation of My Little Pony.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Wow. Yes. Send that to Steve.
And I was resistant. Not gonna touch it. Not gonna touch it.
I knew someone was gonna make fun of that.
And she made a deal with me. She said, "You watch one episode, and I'll never bring it up again." And so I ended up finding the show really interesting. And the characters that were on the show surprised me. I ended up really liking it. Watched the entire first season in 3 days. And yeah, it's been quite a ride. I mean, at this point, I'm a full-blown brony. That's the name.
Full-blown what?
Brony. I took bro and pony and combined it to brony. Yeah. So it spiraled into other aspects of my life. Like now I make a bunch of YouTube videos about My Little Pony. And I've competed in demolition derbies. And what I have my girlfriend do is paint up the cars as the characters. So I'll pull out into this demolition derby arena where all these guys have these mean-looking machines that they're ready to wreck. And I'll pull out in a pink machine with cute balloons and butterflies on it. And I say, "Bring it on, guys." And I actually ended up winning a demolition derby in that pink machine right there. And all the competitors were pissed.
Okay. All right. Oddly enough, Jeff, the good news for you is you are not the first brony. The idea that you're interested in programming that has empowered women in it. I think that's very progressive of you. And so it's not all bad news. I would warn you that sometimes if you're engaged only in this kind of thing, it can become a little regressive and unhealthy. So be careful of that. I fear that you might be stepping into that territory just a little bit here.
And that's because of the demolition derby cars being painted up as ponies?
And everything else you've said.
JakeWhyman, as a 128th viewer of your video, thank you for what you've just seen.
Oh my god. That's fantastic.
Steve licking his lips.
Thank you for that, Jake. That's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess
I have to give them a lot of credit. Despite the script saying obsession, their caption was "likes My Little Pony."
Yes, I saw that too. I'm like, I told Sarah, I'm like, they could have done anything right there.
My, yes.
You know, they could just
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a whole ton of stuff that they could have put, and I felt like I got off pretty easy on that one.
Yeah.
So for anybody, I guess we should just jump to Q&A if anyone has questions. I'm trying to see.
Where did they send those questions?
At either or both at the Semi-Perfect Pod Twitter or ACRacebest's Twitter. I'm going to be putting that information in the chat right now.
Yeah.
Jake.
That psychiatrist guy or whatever.
He looks like Steve Buscemi.
Why would you insult Buscemi like that?
That beautiful human being.
I don't mean any offense to Dr. Duffy, but I love that Mr. Wyman here focused on the smile, because that was the only thing I really noticed too.
Yeah, no, like I said, I knew I had to take down that psychologist immediately.
For the demolition cars and for everything else.
Well, I mean, how do you respond to that, really?
That's the idea.
Ask him where he gets his guy's degree.
Yeah. Race, I gotta hand it to you. Some of the people here know I'm a lawyer, but yeah, I'm in court on a daily basis. I talk to people for a living, and I'm used to that whole concept of you're always on stage, even when you're not.
Mm-hmm.
The cameras are always rolling.
Right.
My hat goes off to you for being able to think of what you're doing, how you're saying it, and the whole context of things on the fly as smoothly as you do. It's impressive.
I appreciate that. I've obviously been able to have a lot of practice talking in front of big groups of people. It's just, and even the whole concept of being on national television wasn't as intimidating as I thought it might be once I got to that point. I was just like, huh. Like I said, the biggest thing I was worried about was just I hate memorization. I could be in front of one person having to memorize something, and it wasn't word for word memorization. It was more of just I put my own words into it, but yeah, I just had to hit a lot of points. Let's see here. Drummer Shy has a question.
Actually, wait, hold on.
Asking...
First, before that, I've already gotten a lot of questions. If this is going to be uploaded on YouTube at some point, yes, the Semi-Perfect podcast will be uploaded on YouTube on Friday, and the link will be on our Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Right. So this question will be quick because Drummer Shy is asking, how do you feel about the Chargers moving to LA? Too many teams in LA. I don't watch football.
I don't either.
Matt, do you care?
I understand why they're coming up. Well, no, I don't understand why they're coming up here, although I kind of do. We have 2 basketball teams. We have 2 hockey teams in the LA area. I'm counting the Ducks in there. Can we support 2 teams? I don't think so, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Frankly, it would have been nice to keep the San Diego Chargers and keep the LA Rams.
Let's see here. Captain Venom is asking, did you talk to Steve more than on the show? The only interaction I had with him one-on-one was when he walked up to me and shook my hand and said thanks for coming on before the segment happened. That was it. Other than that, there was no interaction I had with him outside of being on the actual show. Mm-hmm. Nora, near and dear to my heart with this question, asking, did you have a Chicago-style deep dish pizza, or are you going to have some soon? Well, Nora, I really hope that we will hopefully have the opportunity coming up soon to have a Chicago-style deep dish pizza. Right, Saber?
Know it.
Yeah, it's just in a couple of months.
What is... let's see here.
A convention.
I got to ask you to do me a favor, Ace. There's a place around here that does what I believe is a good Chicago style. When you have it in Chicago actual, you got to come down here and join me for a pizza.
We've had.
Let me know how it matches up.
No,
we haven't. You've not had this place.
No, I'm saying I've had deep dish in Chicago.
Oh, well then come on down here. Let's grab a pizza.
Okay. You don't have to tell me twice. So we have had one last time we went to Winnie City last year. So it's good stuff. Rosie...
She says, it's been a really rough week. I'd like to know one good thing that happened to you today. What's a good thing that happened to y'all today?
I got paid.
Good job.
That's a very good thing.
That's a good thing.
What good things happened to you guys?
I heard back from my client on a job that I've been working on, so that was a good thing because I hadn't heard from him for a week, and I'm like, ugh, what happened?
Short time. It's very short time. You'll get used to it.
Yeah.
Anyone else have good things?
I was in the area talking with an expert on one of my cases, swung by the restaurant. Long story short, mother of one of my former clients gave me a free meal today at her restaurant because I stopped in to say hi.
Oh. Nice.
That's how you know you're doing a decent job.
Mine might be a little nerdy for everyone, but I found out that next week the head of LIGO is going to come give a talk at my school.
Ooh.
So I'm going to be going to that probably.
Huh.
Nice.
Yeah.
You'll have to let us know how it was.
I already know Saber's answer to this question, by the way.
Do tell.
Saber got a free chili.
It wasn't free.
They made what?
It was a large. I still paid for a small, but
you got an upgraded chili.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Come on. This is a question for everybody. What were your opinions on the Oscar nominations? Original song category had me super excited. This was asked by Heather.
I haven't done a deep look into what has been nominated.
I didn't even know they'd come out yet. I'm sorry.
Jeffrey, do you know what the original song category, what they're talking about?
I believe they're referring to Moana.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
that one's
give it to Lynn.
Yeah, there's one for Moana. For how far I'll go. Can't Stop the Feeling from Trolls.
Hold on, if Lynn gets this, won't he be an EGOT?
Yes, he will.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Though I'm guessing it might go to City of Stars for La La Land, just because La La Land has like 14 nominations.
And I have to imagine they get one for the music.
I'm so underwhelmed by like I don't know. Maybe it's just because I like the jumpy music or the beautiful music. I was gonna say jumpy like Trolls, but more specifically, I just love Moana soundtrack compared to La La
It's so
Land.
good.
Yeah, I do too. I still
La
like
La
La La
Land.
Land
There's
a
like
lot,
so
though.
many other good songs in that movie, and like City of Stars is just like 30 seconds long, and I was like, what the fuck?
I'm wondering why they chose that one over like a whole bunch of other ones that were in it.
Hey, Ray, how many did Zootopia get?
Zootopia got one nomination, and
For?
it was for most creative bunny.
Best animated.
It was
picture.
for best animation. I will admit, call me greedy, but I was a little bit bummed. Even though I knew it was a long shot, I was bummed to see that it didn't beat
Get best picture.
Yeah, at least get nominated for best picture because, like, I was talking to Saber about this earlier, and I understand the history behind like animation with this category, but it's just like I'm just looking at some of the movies that were nominated, and I'm like, critically, Zootopia tore apart like half of these. Like some of them like really are deserving, obviously, but like there's some where I'm like, okay, I haven't seen them, by the way. This isn't like my opinion of the movie. It's just based off of what I've heard of it, and I'm just like, and when I say heard of it, I mean like going off of like Rotten Tomatoes ratings.
Was Hidden Figures one of the nominations for Best Picture, or is it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
that one's a good movie.
Because that's technically a 2016 movie.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's my whole take on that.
But the other animated movie ones, Moana has one, which is interesting because that's 2 Disney movies that are nominated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Finding Dory did not get nominated.
Yeah, so no Pixar.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that a first?
No.
I think they weren't nominated for Cars 2.
Yeah.
What?
So
beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. Imperfect asks, "What's your favorite breakfast cereal?" Fruity Pebbles. One of the few I can actually eat.
I'm currently eating Fruit Loops with marshmallows.
Sounds
right now.
I'm an adult. No, I should be.
Okay.
It used to be Rice Krispies. Nowadays, it's some form of granola.
That's the most adult answer anyone has said yet.
Yeah.
I miss the tricks that were shaped like the fruit. I missed it.
Oh, me too. That actually really is like a sad thing.
Yeah, if you really want to get adult, every once in a while, I'll put a scoop of yogurt on top.
Whoa, slow
Stop
down
it.
there.
Crazy.
Matt.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
K2 Sonic fan is asking, did the psychologist ever apologize? No, actually, the psychologist I interacted with more than I did Steve Harvey, though. Because before we went on, he was backstage with us, and he, shook our hands, said hello, great to meet you guys. And then afterwards, still smiling and everything, shook our hands, thanked us for coming on the show, said we did great. And one thing I got a kick out of was a lot of the producers were like, you guys owned it so like good, like because both to Bridget and myself, they're just like, you guys just owned the weirdness, and that's awesome. And it was like cool. Joseph asks what's with the face, but I don't know.
Mini Brony asks, why didn't you say what you did for your YouTube channel or your job with a bit of detail? And he's asking that to you.
YouTube channel. I asked them beforehand. I said, am I allowed to mention my YouTube channel? And they said no. And I went, then I'm leaving.
Job?
Job, it just I never felt the need to mention it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is a certain amount of anonymity I was trying to keep with this show, so the less personal information I gave of myself, I thought the better.
Totally get it.
I made sure that they weren't going to put my full name on. Like, there were a lot of things that I cleared with, just because I didn't know how it was going to go. I knew I could handle myself, but I didn't know, how it was edited. There's so much that was cut out. Things could have been really, set up weird. I didn't know. So I just never felt. My mom asked me the same question, by the way. She's like, "Why didn't you say you were a mechanical engineer?" I'm like, "Well, I just never. I never really saw it fit. It never really came up."
Yeah.
Swift Blaze is asking, "Do you feel more empowered now that you've been on national television?" No, I don't feel any different. Really, I feel like I'm glad I did it because I came really close to not doing it. It was a really fun, very unusual experience, and it ended up turning out okay. Like I was still kind of nervous prior to it, airing, because I didn't know what they were going to do with the footage. And now that I've seen it, now that it's out there, I'm like, nah, no regrets. I am happy. I've seen quite a few people talking about it and just saying like that, that they were glad that I went on and whatnot. And I'm like, that's cool. Thank you so much.
There's a few questions that were missing since they were only tagged with Semi-Perfect Pod. There's one from Rarity MLP. Is the Brony fandom still okay? This is a question that has been bothering me for a few months now. I don't want it to end. So I guess they're just concerned about the whole saying that, oh, the Brony fandom's dying.
What do you guys think? Are we dying?
I don't think we're going anywhere. Don't worry about it.
No.
It's still alive and well. There's so many conventions that are still going. Don't worry about it.
Abandoned ship.
It's not dying.
I'm not giving up my ships. Thank you very much.
Saber.
No. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to ask you if the fandom's dying.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I'd say next year. Yes, next year it's dying.
Okay. Yeah. Predestined death.
Prepare your lifeboats, everybody. I was going to say no. As long as there are people that are actually into the show and enjoying it and willing to talk about it, the fandom is always going to be there at some point.
I always use this point. The first fandom I was ever a part of is for a show that ended in the early 90s.
Yeah, about 20-something years ago now. And it's the fandom's still going.
5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, look, there's multiple examples you can look at. Like,
but even in terms of it fading off, no, I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
Well, Star Trek's still going.
Yeah.
They're so popular. Furries, they're still around.
Star Wars.
Heck, even Nazis have people hanging nowadays.
I'm not going to go so far as to call it a fandom, Saber, but hey, to each their own.
The Nazi fandom is doing fine.
Oh God.
Keep
once it's got elected president.
All right.
So what's our next
question? Is if race could pick someone. This is by Barboat. If race could pick someone to represent brownies other than him on the show, who would he choose? Who would you choose, Jeffrey, if you had to pass the torch?
How do you narrow that down?
Thunder Blue.
Yes.
Oh my.
Because he'd sing for Steve, and then he'd get it. Steve would get it. Was happening during the initial process. I thought Gabe would have been fantastic for this, especially because of his. I thought he had a more interesting story than I would have.
Mm-hmm.
That he was in the military and all that, and he can do a backflip. So I kind of thought Gabe was. I was hoping actually at first that they were going to choose Gabe. I didn't get this opportunity and go, oh my God, I can go on television. I could be famous. It wasn't about any of that. It just came to the point where I'm like, yeah, this could be fun. But I was hoping initially that Gabe was going to be their choice. And then the guy ended up sticking with me.
Yeah.
Well, I think you did a very fine job for what you did.
Thank you. Do you have more, Sarah?
Let's see.
What else we got?
I have a few.
Yeah, Ross Pitt asks, do you ever have a question, then just forget about it when you're about to ask? Yes, it happens
the
all
time.
the time. All the
Yep.
time.
Yeah. It's
It's even
yes.
better when I'm questioning a witness on the stand.
Oh goodness.
Oh no, I'll just pause there in front of the jury and just sorry guys, let me try this one again. I promise you I speak English.
Lewis,
like nothing happened.
Lewis is asking, are you going to Winnie City PonyCon? Also link to the YouTube poop video. I don't know if we have a link to that. I'm sure we do. We could probably post that. Winnie City,
got it.
stay tuned.
Oh, I already retweeted on the Semi Perfect Pod.
Oh, there you go.
Twitter.
You can check it out. For Winnie City, I'd say stay tuned. I have a really good feeling that things just might work out.
We'll hope they do.
Cole is asking, is there YouTube heroes for bronies? I don't know. But he also asked, who is really funny, Steve Harvey or you? I don't think I'm a good one to
Steve's
ask.
faces are funny.
Oh, he's got the mugshot down. That came out wrong. I apologize.
I wasn't even thinking that. Now you put it in my head.
You're welcome.
Solar is asking, aside from things that were cut, is there anything you would have changed or added in now that the segment is out? Probably not. I felt like it actually went as good as it was probably going to go. All things considered, outside of like, I didn't realize that I was going to be put on the spot by the psychologist. So, you know, that was just something that came with it. But I expected it before I got there. Like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like I'd already prepared for the battle, and then I like walked a few blocks away and then went, wait, there's still a battle, and ran back to my like bunker, and then got ready to fire away. So yeah,
I kind of wish you would have said shit on the air, or at least gotten to see it on TV.
Well, I wish that didn't get cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if there were things that I wish, because he did say aside from things that were cut.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that part.
I felt really good about my whole like discussion about, you know, this is why I think it's a good thing about the show and whatnot. But it got cut, and honestly, it was something I went, I mean, yeah, it would have been cool for it to be in there, and then people wouldn't be asking why I didn't explain more, because I did. It didn't make it into the final cut. But that being said, it's also, you know, it's just a case where at least it ended on a positive note, because they could have done something really funky with it. Jory's asking, after seeing you on Steve Harvey, what other talk show would you want to be on next if you were asked to go?
Maury.
What?
I said Maury.
I don't know. You guys have any that you'd want to be on?
I wouldn't mind going on Conan.
Definitely Conan, yeah.
I caught a taping of his about a year ago, and you mentioned how Steve Harvey does things to cut out. The way I watched Conan, at least the time it took to film it, they don't cut on that show. What you see is what happened.
I
They roll.
always think it would be fun to be like on one of those shows, not as someone who's like, okay, we're going to diagnose what's wrong with this person. But I think it'd always be fun to be on that setting, because like those settings, the audience laughs when they are when it's necessary to laugh. So I mean, you could lay down some really low budget jokes. Doodles asking, did you see any parts of Chicago as you were there? Not really. I went to and I left. There wasn't much I saw, but there was snow and it was cold.
Nathan Bassett asked, did you get one of those breast milk necklaces?
You know what? I wanted one, but I couldn't produce any breast milk on this. Like, I tried.
Wow.
Yep.
Nathan also asks, best movie of last year.
Zootopia. Next.
And he also asks, will Cars 3 be better than Cars 1 and 2? Well, I'll get
what do you guys think?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Well, probably better than 2.
Well, I know Saber is a huge fan of the Cars series. So
Let's hear his
he's
opinion.
probably...
No opinion?
He's asleep.
No comment.
Captain Venom says, if you were going to do that again / redo it, what would you change? If there's anything I'd change, if I had the power to change, it'd be what I was wearing.
Yeah.
It wasn't that comfortable. Yeah, like I wish I could have been in the
look comfortable.
No, it wasn't. And it like after I saw it on television, I'm like, that shit added like I feel like 40 pounds to me. Like I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know what it is about the
You
vest.
really should have just owned it, dude. Like parted your hair, put on some lederhosen, have a like overly large like lollipop licking it. Like, oh yeah, I am Zabroni.
I should have like brought some lipstick to put on during the segment and be like,
whenever Steve says pony, you're like, oh, I can't help but dance whenever you say the word pony, and start dancing around.
At one point, I told Steve to look in Rainbow Dash's eyes. And I'm like, do you feel the fear, Steve?
You didn't.
I did. I kid you not. I swear to God. I said, Steve, do you feel the fear? And he went, oh, I feel the fear, all right.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Digital Arrow asks, do you think Judy Hopps should have become a black belt instead of a cop? You could say she would throw some judo chops. I feel like she is a black belt, though.
She can be both.
In addition to being a cop.
she got the skills, and then she put it to the police force.
I like her. Flight Force says, opinions on Duffy being the main villain for season 7.
Oh my god.
You know, Race, when you first told me about the psychologist's name of Duffy,
yeah,
I couldn't help but think of that teddy bear that
the bear, yeah,
that Disney's trying to promulgate. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it exists, and I apologize if I'm missing some big thing in the Disney fandom. But yeah, when you said Duffy, I could never help but think of the bear.
I think of Duff Beer.
I think of Duffy the Vampire Slayer.
But I'm imagining basically the guy who works the bar with Duff Beer, but slaying dragons. Insert name here, Serptix says, will Steve Harvey be a special guest on Brony's React? Actually, funny that you should ask about Brony's React. No, there are not any plans on Steve Harvey being a special guest, but a new Brony's React is going to be out here in the next few days, so that's finally going to be out there.
Brony's React. For some reason, I thought you said Brony Breakdown, and I'm like, why Brony Breakdown? It's a dead podcast for like a year now. and then I'm like, oh, Brony's React. So
hey, Saber, all I got to ask is, do you still visit its grave? Because I know Paleo does.
Visit what?
Yeah, I bring flowers.
Brony Breakdown.
Oh, it's grave. Oh, yeah. I have like an actual grave in my backyard for Brony Breakdown.
So sad. Mini Brony's asking, what did you do after the session? Literally just left. I went straight to the airport. Got there nice and early for my flight, which is rare, and enjoyed what do they call them? Italian beef sandwich. And I ate the crap out of that, and it was good. Oh, this is funny. So because I got to the airport okay, this is how short everything was. And it didn't occur to me until I was sitting in the airport after I was getting ready to leave. I went on to sign on for the free internet, and they have like one of those stupid 45 minutes free things. And I signed on, and it said, you've already used your session. And I'm like, what the hell is it talking about? And I realized, holy shit, I was here 16 hours ago. Using their internet. I was like, wow. That literally, all the energy just drained from me. I realized, I'm like, what just happened? Cole asked, what do you think of John Duffy? I mean, he was on the show for a purpose, and he exercised that purpose, and I did what I could to shut him up quick, and did. and I think once he realized maybe that he didn't have anything more to add, he just enjoyed the rest of the segment.
Rarity MLP asks, what do you think of the new art style for the MLP movie? I think they are referring to what we looked at the last Semi-Perfect podcast, the little promotional art that they had. I'm just going to say now, that's probably not what the movie's going to look like, because it's promotional art that's, done up to look really nice and good, but that's probably not what the final product's gonna look like. I'm just gonna say that now.
And just so everybody knows, we're right here in the last few questions of the podcast. But again, want to thank everybody who did come out. We're going to have another show on not next Wednesday, the 8th?
Yes, the 8th.
February 8th?
February 8th.
So really hope that a lot of you will join us for that. Obviously, we won't stick to one topic. We like to talk about a lot of stuff. Sometimes Saber brings up some good topics, and we go over all the juice. Jazz King Plays is asking, when are you guys going to Canada? I don't know. I'd like to, though. I like Canada. It's nice.
Go check it out.
Yeah. No, it's really pretty up there. Really like it. Jessica is asking, are you guys going to go to BabsCon? Nothing confirmed right now, Jessica. However, one thing that we do tell everybody is if you guys are hoping that we can make it to a convention, make sure that you tag the convention, like in this tweet, for example. You can tag or ask them if we're going to be there. Essentially, if they see people asking if we're going to be there, they realize people want us to be there. So helping spread the word, letting, for example, BabsCon know if you'd like us to be there, go ahead and maybe send them a tweet and be like, they better be there. The end. But hoping so. BabsCon's always been a fun convention. We've gone to the last 2 years. We always get a kick out of all the like side parties that happen.
Oh, they're fun.
Yeah, so it's I mean, I already know that the lineup for BabsCon is pretty big already, so should be a really fun convention.
One last question. I think this one that I've got would be a good one to end it on.
I have potentially two in addition to that. What's the question? Who asks it?
Billy M. Waffles.
Okay, we have 3 questions to go.
All right. If you had the option of having a video interview with any of your heroes, who would they be?
So we're interviewing them?
Yes, I guess.
Oh.
Yes.
Ooh, wow.
Who is your hero that you would
Do they have to be alive?
I think they would.
They'd probably have to be alive if you want to interview them.
Yeah. So.
It'd be really awkward if they weren't.
Stand by their grave, holding the mic up to it. Like
that'd be really awkward.
Race, I can see you doing that. Corpses react.
Oh my gosh.
Like when I saw this question, the first person that popped up in my mind would be the guy who plays Gonzo on the Muppets, Dave Goelz. I look up to him a lot. I love his characters that he does. He did Boober Fraggle and Fraggle Rock. He does Gonzo. All those fun characters that I really like. So I think I would probably interview him.
I gotta say Winston Churchill.
Hmm.
Just for the balls that guy has for standing where he did, when he did, how he did, and just holding the middle finger to everything Europe was throwing at him at the time.
So I guess we're
doing
back to dead people.
Yeah, I guess we're doing that. We're going up to graves with microphones.
Hey, I'm holding that microphone up there. He'll say what he'll say.
I believe you.
I was gonna say, like, if it was anyone in history, I'd say Walt Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's someone that's currently alive, maybe Jim Carrey.
If it's someone currently alive, and I'm gonna make some enemies here, I'm sure, but Donald Trump.
Oh,
seriously, anyone that just did what he... No, hang on. Anyone that just did what he did, I want to sit down and talk to him about how and why and what. Seriously.
The phrasing of the question was any of your heroes. I would.
Yeah, truth comes out.
I stand by my answer.
I stand by my convictions. Thank you very much.
Though, by the way, Matt, I did see some Churchill paintings at the Dallas Museum of Art when I went to go visit my parents' house, and they were
along with the Art of the Drink.
Yes.
Apparently, Dallas is catering to me.
Yeah. They have 2 Winston Churchill paintings.
Did anyone else have an answer for that, Saber?
Oh,
or Paleo?
Yeah, I was gonna say it would either be David Attenborough, or Craig McCracken.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Craig's an interesting one.
Yeah.
If it's gonna be alive, I definitely do David, just because like he's been everywhere. I feel like he's a wise person.
Yeah, he's seen like every animal in existence.
If it's somebody who's dead, toss up between they're gonna be George Washington, because I mean, like, just be there at that time to be like the centerpiece of the founding of our country. That's amazing. And call me crazy, I would.
Hitler.
Hitler. Yep.
I knew it. I actually, before you said call me crazy, I had a feeling your second one was going to be Hitler.
Well, because I mean, like, there's a you can find a stranger in the street and go, okay, right now, name 5 people off. They go, Jesus, Hitler, George. You know, Hitler's always a very common person because he was such a big part of like recent history, and I would want to speak to him and see, like, you know, why did you make this decision? What's going through your head? What do you still? But look at today. Look what happened. What did it make you change your mind? Like, don't laugh at me.
I know. I'm just saying that's crazy for the question.
A
hero. But you're like,
if
always
you
talking about
hero.
interesting people that you're like,
You know
well,
what?
I'd like to get inside their heads.
Give me an autograph, Saber, please.
You know what? You know what, Sarah? He is my hero.
No.
Why not, Sarah? Why not? Why can't there be
Sarah. He's gonna gather up all the gonzos. All right.
Uh-oh.
What's the next question?
That's a nice question, Jeffrey.
Okay, let's move this along, please.
Here we go. So there's 2 questions here that as we're finishing this up. Swiftblaze is asking, have you thought of going on a Sea Bronies cruise? Those always look like a lot of fun. And Mini Brony is asking, final question, will you guys be going to the Las Vegas MLP convention? Who I have talked with their people. Same thing like I said earlier, guys. If you're hoping that we can make it to a convention or like Sea Bronies cruise or something, the best way to ensure that we can make it there is to let the convention know that you guys want us there. That way there is that awareness, because otherwise people are going to be like, yeah, but really, does anyone care that these guys are going to be at this convention? And the answer is probably no. But, you know, you can at least give them the impression that someone cares, right? Yeah. But Brandon's asking here, the last question, he asked, how bad was the jet lag when you got back? It actually wasn't really bad at all, because I was there for such a short amount of time that there wasn't really any time to adjust, but any really point to adjust either. I didn't have to wake up early. I think I had to be like ready to be picked up at 10:15. So I was able to get a good amount of sleep, which was my biggest concern. I wanted to make sure I had enough sleep so I'd be fully mentally prepared as I was going in, and I didn't want to bring the fandom down with me. But I did, so too bad. I know I did a lot of talking on this podcast, but again, folks, we really hope that those of you that joined us here tonight do decide to join us for future podcast shows. We do these bi-weekly, so mark it on your calendar. We'll be back on February 8th, 2017. We'll be talking about a whole slew of who knows what. That's the fun part about the shows. We basically just talk about whatever is the topic. You guys can throw topics at us. Want to thank you all for joining us here. Hope you guys enjoyed the story. Hope you guys enjoyed the segment. I hope I didn't let you guys down. And yeah, that is, I guess that's a wrap here on the Semi-Perfect Podcast.
Yeah.
So good night, everybody.
Thanks for joining us, y'all.
Good night.
Oh, and a reminder, we do have a Twitter that you guys can follow for Semi-Perfect Podcast and the Discord page.
And the Discord page, yes. Also consider joining the Semi-Perfect Podcast Discord server that's created by our watchers for our watchers. And I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. And then I'll probably make a tweet for it. So, yeah.
There's that link. Dim Ponies. Good night, everybody. Have a great 2 weeks till we see you again.